Hello travelers, I'm Chris, welcome to Lorespire. This video is a full character build video for a heavy armored tank taking the Angel Mythic path. We'll start with the backstory, then move on to character creation, leveling, and Mythic path choices. All of the combat that you see in this video is footage of this build at level 17, Mythic rank 8. There are timestamps so you can skip ahead if you like. Now let's open our Tome of Forgotten Heroes to learn the story of Aurius, Heaven's Shield. Aurius was born in the port city of Agida, in the country of Mendev. Aurius's mother Elena was an oracle, touched by Iomade. His father, Arniel, was a blacksmith that catered to the mercenaries who constantly flowed through Agida on their way to join the Queen's army. Upon Aurius's birth, it was readily apparent to all who were present that he was no ordinary child. His eyes glowed, and what little hair he had was an unnatural color, metallic gold. Yes, Aurius was born in Asamar. When the child was laid in Elena's arms, her own eyes began to glow as his, and she entered a trance. She spoke words of prophecy in a booming, otherworldly voice. This child, touched by the gods, shall one day be tainted by the abyss. A choice is to be made, to close Galarian's most grievous wound by following the abyss, or to follow the Inheritor, becoming a true legend and savior to the whole of Galarian. The combined stresses of both bringing a new life into the world and being a conduit of divine prophecy were too much for Elena to bear. She lost consciousness and passed from the world of the living shortly after. The midwife present for the birth made arrangements for a wet nurse to feed and take care of the child. Arniel was crushed by the wife's passing, but he had work to do and agreements to keep, and so he threw himself into his work like never before. News of the prophecy concerning Aurius inevitably spread throughout the city, but Arniel would have none of it. He was dead set that the boy would be a blacksmith, and that was that. One man who dared push Arniel on the subject found himself in need of a healer and several days' rest. No one else ever brought it up to Arniel, but the neighborhood never stopped speaking of it behind his back. As Arnius grew up, he heard the rumors of himself, and often dreamed of becoming a great hero like Saint Clidwell, Yaniel, Turindalev, or Queen Galfrey. When Aurius was 8, Arniel found him playing crusades with some of the local children, and the children were referring to him as Saint Aurius. Arniel was furious. He chased the other children away and severely scolded Aurius. From that day forth, Aurius accompanied Arniel to the forge each and every day. Arniel taught the boy hard work, honesty, and smithing. Never again did Aurius play with his friends. Despite this, Aurius was never bitter. He was actually glad to finally be getting attention from his father. As it turned out, smithing came natural to Aurius, and he found creating useful things to be immensely fulfilling. Furthermore, he took to Arniel's teachings of hard work and honesty. To him, these values seemed obvious and would certainly almost always be the best way to deal with people and with life's happenings in general. As Aurius continued to grow, it was obvious that he was a master smith in the making. Even as a young teenager, Aurius could make high-quality weapons and armor, and by the time he reached his middling teenage years, the items he produced sometimes outshone even Arniel's best work. People began to say that Aurius's steel was of such high quality because it was blessed by heaven. After all, he was too young to have such skill. His angelic heritage must cause everything he made to become blessed by heaven. Arniel spoke loudly against such claims. His work is this good because he's been working metal since the age of 8, Arniel would tell them. Still, in the back of his mind, Arniel remembered the prophecy, and even he wondered if there might be a touch of the divine at work. Then, one fateful day, Aurius met the man that would set in motion the prophecy given at his birth. This man was a mercenary named Lanier. He arrived at Arniel's forge to commission a special tower shield and told a fantastic tale of him and his fellow warriors battling a group of demons. They had caught the demons by surprise and thought that they would easily win the day. Then great volleys of fire erupted from the mass of demons. The fires turned some of the crusaders to ash and left others writhing in pain, unable to fight. All but those who carried tower shields. You see, a towered shield offers protection like nothing else on the battlefield, Lanier explained. It's like having a wall between you and the demons, from which you can strike and retreat when the time is right. Ultimately, the tower shield bearers had won the battle for the Crusaders on that day. In Aurius's mind, what Lanier said made good sense. In fact, Aurius decided right then and there that if he were ever to battle demons, he would surely employ the use of a tower shield. As Lanier's story was coming to an end, Aurius's mind was filled with an impossible memory. His mother, with glowing eyes, speaking words of prophecy in a voice that could belong to no mortal. The stories he had heard as a child were true. Aurius's head spun with jumbled thoughts. "Boy!" Arniel's booming voice cut through the haze in Aurius's mind. "The man is talking to you. Get your head out of the clouds. What's gotten into you?" Aurius snapped back into the moment with an immediate reply. "Sorry, father. What was the question?" Lanier spoke. "I need this tower shield, and I need it to be made by you. How long will it take?" Aurius replied, "I've never made a tower shield before. I understand how it should be done, but surely my father is a better choice to make this." "Boy, you were truly caught up in your thoughts of my story, weren't you? Your father told me this already, but I am fighting demons and need a shield blessed by the heavens. It is said that your angelic heritage gives its blessing to everything you make. It must be you who makes it. I'll pay for 3 shields. The first 2 can be for you to hone your skills. Do whatever you like with them. The third I will take with me into battle. I need you to start work immediately. How long will it take you?" Aurius looked to his father in surprise. Arniel stood there with a blank face. Never before had he refrained from correcting someone when they claimed Aurius's creations were in some way blessed. Was this further proof of the prophecy? Moments passed as Aurius considered Lanier's request. "Give me 11 days, and I'll have the best tower shield I can make ready for you. I cannot guarantee its quality, but I promise you it will be done to my fullest capability." Lanier reached forward and clasped Aurius's hand. "Good. I'll return in 12 days. With that, Lanier left. Arniel turned to Aurius. "That man has more faith than brains, but we'll honor his request. This work is yours and yours alone. I'll return home and spend these days making repairs to the house and settling other affairs. There's plenty of work to be done. You best be about it." "Father, wait," Aurius said, then hesitated. After a moment, Arniel responded, "Aurius, I've taught you to speak your mind, and speak it honestly. If you've something to say, then out with it, so we can both be about our business." Aurius stilled himself and asked of Arniel something he never would have only a half hour before. "Are the stories true, Father? The rumors of the prophecy at my birth, are they true?" Arniel hesitated, and for a long moment stared into his son's eyes. Finally, he replied, "The words were spoken, but they were no prophecy. I don't know where the words came from. but they stated that my son would be tainted by the abyss, and that is something I cannot accept. You are born to be a blacksmith, boy, not a warrior, and your ability at the forge should be proof enough of that. Now put these foolish thoughts from your mind. I'll not hear of it again. You have a difficult task at hand. You've made an agreement, and that's where your mind should be. With that, Arniel turned and left. Aurius knew his father was right, not about the prophecy. Arniel's hesitation, along with that impossible memory, was confirmation enough for Aurius that the prophecy was true. Arniel was right that he had made an agreement, and agreements were meant to be kept, not broken. With determination, Aurius put his mind to the task of tower shield creation. He woke early each morning, worked all through the day and into the night on his project. He drew up plans, paid attention to the smallest of details, and when he was unsure, he let intuition guide his hammer. Each night, he fell into his cot exhausted, yet he could not sleep. He kept thinking of Lanier's story, imagining the gruesome battle and the demon's devious tactics. And of course, he recalled the prophecy. With each recollection, it seemed even more clear. He was not meant to be a blacksmith, for better or worse. He was surely meant to join the Crusades and to fulfill his mother's final words. But first, he must keep his word and finish this work. On day 4, when he finished the first of the tower shields, he thought it was good, but knew it could be better. On day 7, when he finished the second tower shield, he not only knew it was great, but that it could be greater. While working on the third tower shield, Aurius let his mind go, and worked entirely on instinct. He could feel how the shield would deflect attacks, how jets of flame would flow around it protecting the wielder, how even the mightiest blow would glance off of the shield protecting the warrior. Aurius felt a kinship to the shield, the likes of which he had never felt with a piece of work before. Aurius finished the final shield at the end of the 11th day, and he was sure that this shield was perfect, or as close to perfect as he was capable of making it anyways. Sleep did not elude him on that night, and the next morning Aurius went to speak to his father. Aurius found Arniel eating breakfast at the table in their home. Arniel offered some food, but Aurius refused. He didn't much feel like eating. He wanted this done. Father, I've finished my work on the tower shield that Lanier requested. I believe it's a fine piece, and that he'll be pleased. I've no doubt that he will be, but something tells me that's not why you're here, replied Arniel. I have spent much time thinking on this, and I'm going with him, Father. That is, if Lanier will take me, I'm going to accompany him to join Queen Galfrey's army and do my part against the demons. Aurius was not asking Arniel's permission. No, he was clearly stating his intent. Arniel's face grew red as he began to speak. So, you're going to leave your family, shirk your responsibilities, and give up your life for some foolish idea of prophecy? Boy, you weren't there. It was no prophecy. Now, I was there! Aurius interrupted Arniel. I know I was too young to remember it, but somehow I do. I can see and hear Mom speaking those words when I close my eyes, as clearly as I can see and hear you now. I was there, and I believe it did mean something, and I can't ignore it. This is my responsibility. This is my duty now, and I will not deny it. You taught me better than that, Father. With that, Aurius turned and left. He was sad. Later, Lanier arrived at the forge to retrieve his tower shield. He was impressed with the work, and paid what he had agreed to pay. Aurius told Lanier of his desire to accompany him to join the Queen's army. At first, Lanier made an attempt to talk him out of it, but stopped when he saw the determination in Aurius's eyes. The next day, the two left with a group of mercenaries Lanier had found, who also wished to join Queen Galfrey's army. Aurius left all of the money for his father, but took the second tower shield he had made, a suit of old banded mail armor, and a plain but well-made longsword from the forge's inventory. The group traveled by day and made camp in the evenings. Each evening, Lanier gave Aurius lessons, teaching him the basics of using a longsword and a tower shield. Aurius picked this up just as quickly as he had smithing all those years ago, and to him it felt just as natural. After a week of travel, they were nearing Neurosian and made camp for the evening. Lanier and Aurius went through their training exercises, while the other members of the group cooked and tended to their own business. Then they set a watch and went to sleep for the night. Aurius awoke in the middle of the night to the shouting of men and the unnatural sounds of something else. Immediately he found his sword and shield. There was no time for armor. Then he looked around and saw men battling small squat figures and other taller wiry figures. Somehow, he immediately knew that these were demons. As quickly as he could, he moved up next to a mercenary who was fighting two of the figures at once. He protected the man's flank just as Lanier had showed him, and struck from behind his shield when he saw an opening. After several moments, one of the demons fell lifeless to the ground, and the other retreated from them. "This way, boy!" the man shouted, and Aurius followed him as quickly as he could. Suddenly there was a bright flash, and Aurius felt the intense heat of a furnace as a jet of flame struck his shield. The shield had protected Aurius completely, but the mercenary he had been following lay unmoving, skin blackened to ash. Then a weapon struck his shield. It was a spear, wielded by one of the thin, wiry demons. It struck again and again. It was all Aurius could do to block the attacks. Then the demon raised its spear high overhead, and Aurius struck. It was a good blow to the chest that would have killed a man, but against this demon it barely drew blood. The spear was now racing toward Aurius, and he twisted to avoid the blow. He failed, and felt a sharp crack as the side of the spearhead crashed against his skull. Aurius crumpled to the ground. He was woozy, and sure that he would soon be dead. Then he felt himself being dragged, and he had a moment of hope. Lanier must be saving him. It took all of his effort to crane his neck and look at who had hold of his feet. And the last thing that Aurius saw was two of the small squat demons dragging him by each of his feet into the darkness. To be played as a lawful good character, with the occasional deviation from that alignment when it makes sense. He places a high value on duty, honesty, and fairness. If you've played Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous all the way through, you should see how this backstory plays into the writing of the game throughout various chapters. And if you haven't, then see if you can pick it out as you play through the game for your first time. When playing Aurius, I suggest playing him as though he has all of the values presented in the backstory, but due to the ordeal that he suffers at the end of the story, he cannot remember specific details, such as the prophecy or his father, things like that. Now do me a favor, and if you're enjoying this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps out the channel a ton, and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Let's get to character creation. You can choose whichever portrait you like for this build, doesn't really matter. I like this one, I think it fits the build fairly well. It'd be nice if it had a shield, but oh well. Can't be perfect on the pictures all the time. Now, our class that we're going to choose here is the Tower Shield Specialist. right here of the Tower Shield Specialist archetype of the fighter class. And we're going to choose male ASMR for our race and gender. And then we're choosing Plumekith Garuda Blooded for our racial heritage. Our background is, of course, going to be Smith. Aurius's starting ability point allocation should look like this. The 16 strength helps with combat maneuver defense and helps Aurius land hits at the start of the game. Okay, having 16 dexterity will give Aurius a +3 dexterity bonus to his AC and reflex saves. And at the very beginning of the game, this much dexterity may make some medium armors a better choice over some heavy armors, so be sure that you're calculating that with the +3 dexterity bonus to see which are better. Okay, we're going to have 16 Constitution, which of course gives Aurius more hit points and increases his Fortitude save. 13 Intelligence is to get access to the Combat Expertise feat, and 13 Wisdom is just to add some to Aurius's Will saving throws. And of course we dumped Charisma because we don't really need that, but we need everything else here to some degree. Skill points should be allocated like this, with 1 in Athletics, 1 in Mobility, and 1 in Perception. Our starting feats will be Weapon Focus Longsword and Dodge. Longsword is the choice for Weapon Focus so that Aurius can use the unique Longsword Radiance. You can check the video description for a link to a video showing how you can obtain and fully upgrade Radiance if you don't know how. And Dodge is chosen here because it doesn't actually lock Aurius into needing a certain type of armor or a shield in order to get a bonus to AC, which is important at the beginning when you don't have full control over those things. The deity, of course, is Iomedae, and our alignment is going to be Lawful Good. Appearance doesn't really matter too much. You can do it however you like. I like this setting, this face, and body type, and everything. The only thing that I would suggest here is using a white and red color. A white and red color scheme, so that you match Iomedae's colors. They're white and red. But Aurius isn't really that religious. Religion's not like a major part of his life, so it's really not important if you prefer something else. I prefer no voice so that I can keep Aurius's voice sounding the way that I want in my head. And our name, of course, is Aurius. And that's pretty much it for character creation. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on to look at our ability points and our skill points and ability scores. Okay, now let's look at Aurius's final ability point and skill point scores. All of these numbers are unchanged by equipment or buff spells. The final ability point allocation for Aurius should look like this at level 20. Again, the first 2 ability points Aurius gains at levels 4 and 8 should go to Dexterity, levels 12 and 16 should go to Constitution, and here we're putting the final point at level 20 into Wisdom. Okay, the final skill point allocation for this build should be like this, with 20 points in Athletics, 3 and 2 Mobility. Those 3 points should all be there by level 3, and that is just to gain an additional +1 dodge bonus to AC when fighting defensively. 19 points in Perception, and 8 points in Use Magic Device. That is mostly just for emergency situations, so that you can use a scroll or a wand if it's absolutely necessary, but hopefully you're never in such a dire situation like that. Remember, you can see the level by level breakdown for skill points and ability points and everything else in the spreadsheet at the end of this video. Now let's move on to Aurius's character sheet. Here you can see all of the feats that we will choose for Aurius and all of the class abilities that he will receive. The feats that we will take in order from levels 1 through 19 are Weapon Focus Longsword, Heavy Armor Focus, Missile Shield, Iron Will, Improved Iron Will, Wings, Lightning Reflexes, Great Fortitude, Improved Lightning Reflexes, and Toughness. Now the Weapon Focus is here at level 1 because at that point you'll have a limited party and Aurius's damage will be important, more important than at any other point in the game. The armor focus and wings feats are to increase Aurius's AC. Missile shield will help protect Aurius from ranged attacks. Toughness will add some hit points at the end there. And all of these saving throw feats are of course to increase Aurius's saves, because you can't have your tank confused or feared or exhausted or taking huge amounts of AoE damage. So getting his Aurius's saves as high as possible is the best way to minimize those kinds of issues. The bonus combat feats that we will take with Aurius in order from levels 1 through 20 are Dodge, Shield Focus, Combat Expertise, Outflank, Greater Shield Focus, Blind Fight, Improved Initiative, Greater Weapon Focus Longsword, Endurance, Improved Blind Fight, and Weapon Specialization Longsword. You will of course need to take Outflank with other melee party members for it to be effective. Blind Fight and Improved Blind Fight will help against gaze attacks and invisible enemies. Improved Initiative will help Aurius go sooner during each turn, which is very helpful considering that enemies usually attack the party member that they first come into contact with. Greater Weapon Focus and Weapon Specialization are just here because they're the best choices that are left over after we've taken everything else that we need. And our Shield Focus, Combat Expertise, and Greater Shield Focus are here to give Aurius as much AC as possible. Burst Barrier gives Aurius a +1 bonus to reflex saves against burst spells and effects while using a tower shield, which should pretty much be always for this build. By level 18, Burst Barrier will be giving a total of +5 to our reflex saves against these spells and effects. Armor Training reduces Aurius's armor check penalty, which will help with his athletics checks, and it increases the maximum allowed dexterity bonus to AC by Aurius's armor. At level 15, this will allow an additional +4 dexterity bonus to AC. When using Mithril Full Plate Armor, which is what you should be looking for with this build, you'll get an additional +7 dexterity bonus to AC. Tower Shield Training. Now this ability is a little confusing. It reduces the armor check penalty from using a tower shield by 3, and the maximum dexterity bonus allowed by your tower shield is increased by 2. The confusing part here is that tower shields don't have a maximum dexterity limitation the way that armor does. It seems to me that either Owlcat has given us the wrong description, or they never added the intended dexterity limitation to tower shield items. Either way, tower shields will not limit our dexterity bonus with this build, and the armor check penalty from our tower shield will be reduced by this ability. Tower Shield Specialist. Starting at level 5, this ability removes the -2 penalty to attack rolls that Aurius will receive for using a tower shield. Tower Shield Defense. Starting at level 9, Aurius will receive his shield bonus to AC against touch attacks. Total Cover. Starting at level 13, while using a tower shield, Aurius can no longer be flanked. Tower Shield Evasion. At level 16, while using a tower shield, Aurius gains the evasion ability as the rogue class ability, which means that if he succeeds in a reflex saving throw against an attack that would normally deal half damage on a successful save, he instead receives no damage. Here, at 19th level, Aurius gets Armor Mastery, which is at the end of the armor training ability line. And what this does is give him a damage reduction of 5 against everything, no exceptions, whenever he's wearing armor or using a shield. And last, we have Tower Shield Improved Evasion. At level 20, Aurius gains improved evasion when using a tower shield. This makes it so that on a successful saving throw, attacks that would normally deal half damage deal no damage, and on a failed reflex save, those same attacks only deal half damage. Now, let's move on to our mythic abilities and feats. At Mythic Rank 1, take the Bit of Fun First Ascension for Aurius. This will allow him to create 3 illusory copies of himself 3 times per day. The copies will last for 1 minute and function like the mirror image spell, protecting him from attacks. Next, take the Last Stand Mythic ability, which prevents any damage that would drop Aurius's hit points to 0 or below. The effect lasts for 2 turns and can only take effect once per day. Okay, having this will allow Aurius to survive in situations where an enemy gets in a few lucky crits or just deals an unexpectedly high amount of damage. Aurius will also receive Bypass Epic Damage Reduction here, which pretty much does what it says. At Mythic Rank 2, Aurius receives Hard to Kill, which means that he doesn't die until his total number of negative hit points equals or exceeds double his Constitution score. Select the Dodge Mythic feat for Aurius, which will add an additional +1 bonus AC from the Dodge feat that we've already taken. And Aurius will get to summon Will of the Wisp, which actually comes from Bit of Fun, and he'll also get Creative Approach, which gives him a +3 circumstance bonus to all skill checks. This also comes from the Bit of Fun First Ascension. At Mythic Rank 3, select the Angel Mythic path, and take the Inspirational Leader Mythic ability. This will give all allies within 50 feet of Aurius a bonus equal to half of his Mythic rank +1 to their initiative, their saving throws against mind-affecting effects, and their concentration checks. Okay, Aurius will also receive the Sword of Heaven ability here, which allows his weapons and spells to do additional damage, or his healing spells to heal additional damage. He'll also receive Angelic Halo, which gives all allies within 50 feet of Aurius a bonus equal to half of the Angel's Mythic rank +1 to AC and saving throws against attacks made or effects created by evil creatures. You'll get a Mythic Spellbook, which allows you to cast spells from the Angel spell list, and you'll get the ability to summon Spirit Paladins. Alright, I realize that this is taking longer than I figured it would, so I'm going to speed it along here. At Mythic Rank 4, take Shield Focus Mythic, which increases Aurius's AC. Take Bestow the Divine, which allows Aurius to use his Heavenly Sword ability on other party members' weapons. And as you can see here, at each level, Aurius is going to get a stronger version of a summon. So just know that that's happening at each Mythic rank. At Mythic rank 5, take Blinding Light, which will either blind or dazzle enemies depending on if they fail or pass their saves, and that is enemies that are attacking Aurius. Take the Unstoppable Mythic ability, which will negate some troublesome negative effects so that you don't have to worry about those. At Mythic rank 6, take the Iron Will Mythic Feat. That will allow you to roll twice on all of your will saving throws and use the better result. And take Everlasting Flame for Aurius's improved Sword of Heaven, which makes the sword now last for 1 minute per Mythic rank. At Mythic rank 7, take Burning Bright for Aurius's improved Angelic Halo. This will damage all demons and undead within 50 feet of Aurius for 2d6 plus Mythic rank points of holy damage each round. Okay, it's very important later on if the rest of the party goes down and Aurius is the only one left alive, then that will allow you to grind out a battle. And Aurius can solo quite a few fights on his own, so it's actually very helpful and plausible to win in that way if the situation turns bad. Anyways, here we'll also take the Rupture Restraints Mythic ability, which negates the effects of this long list of negative effects that you see here. And Aurius will receive the Halo's Holy Aura ability, which basically adds an aura similar to the Holy Aura spell to Aurius's Angelic Halo ability. At Mythic rank 8, take the Great Fortitude Mythic ability, allowing you to roll twice on all of your Fortitude saving throws and use the better result. And take the Heavenly Host improved Sword of Heaven. Okay, this will allow all of the benefits of your Sword of Heaven ability to extend to all of your allies within 50 feet. Now, there was a bug for this. If it's still bugged, I would take Demon Bane here, but I believe it should be fixed with the recent patch, and as long as that's true, then Heavenly Host is definitely the choice that you want to make at this point. At Mythic rank 9, take the Thundering Blows Mythic ability. It's not going to be that much damage, but Aurius will probably be missing every round, so this will add a little bit of damage, and there really aren't any other better choices at this point. And finally, at Mythic rank 10, take the Lightning Reflexes Mythic Feat, which of course allows Aurius to roll all of his reflex saving throws twice and use the better result. And choose the Speed of Light Greater Sword of Heaven improvement, which of course gives additional attacks to party members that are attacking, or allows them to make spells of level 7 or lower quickened as though using the quicken spell feat. You know, so that's pretty powerful and definitely useful. Let's look at Aurius's spells real quick. I'm not going to go as in-depth on this as I would for a full caster. I'm just going to give some general advice that keeps things simple, because the way that I suggest casting spells with Aurius is simple. Stick to the best heal spells and buffs. Use the most up-to-date ward spells. Wards are these spells right here. Ward against weakness, harm, impurity, and these will all come in single target versions and communal versions. And just use the most up-to-date communal version to give your entire party immunity to the effects that ward grants immunities to. Okay, now fill your other spell slots with whatever buff spells your party needs and cast those before the battle starts. And the rest of your spell slots should be filled with healing spells that are used between battles to cut down on the party's needs, to use items, or to make camp and rest. In an emergency, healing spells can of course be used in battle, but try to keep that as a last resort in a desperate situation, because casting a heal spell will cause Aurius to lose his buffs from 2 AC from combat expertise. I hope that everybody enjoyed this build. It is a very effective tank build with a lot of survivability, and pretty much as long as Aurius doesn't go down, your party's almost definitely going to win the fight. Okay, let me know what you think of the build down below. This is part of the full party build that is still coming. I know things have slowed down a little bit on that front, but it'll be here soon. And there will be a full demonstration of the party in that video in key battles throughout various acts of the game. So be sure that you're liking and subscribing so that you don't miss out on that and other Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous content that will be coming. This has been Chris with Lorespire. Be well, my friends.